Hey guys, I guess you noticed that today Mr. Clark might be going to jail. Actually, no, hopefully not. I am in a courtroom today because we're going to be talking about court cases, specifically court cases that focus on education. And I have somebody here today, Judge Black. How do you do, Judge Black? Do I refer to you as Your Honor, or do I refer to you? How do I refer to you in a courtroom?
In a courtroom, it should be Judge or Your Honor, either one.
Judge or Your Honor. So, guys, y'all know that our governmental system is based on three branches of government. There's the legislative that create the laws. There's the executive that enforce the laws, and then this is where we have a say, or you have a say. It's in the courtroom. And so I'm going to ask Judge or Your Honor a couple of questions, and then we're going to talk about what I want you to do for this assignment. Your Honor, when I talk about the three branches of government, the legislative that make the laws and the executives that enforce the laws, with the judicial side, how do you decide how a law is judged? Or how do you decide how a crime or what are the processes that somebody would go through if they were arrested and brought before you? What would happen?
Well, it's my responsibility with the lesser crimes like the Class C misdemeanors to hear both sides of the case. The police, for example, would present their reasons for believing the person sitting in your chair did what they did, and they would present their accusations. And then the defendant, you in this case being accused of a crime, would have your opportunity to present any evidence that you would have proving that you did not do it. And as a judge, it's my responsibility, first of all, to make sure that your rights were not infringed upon when you were arrested.
So, just to make sure, you're protecting me. Part of your job as a judge is to protect not only the public that maybe had a crime committed against, but it's to protect the person that quite possibly maybe committed the crime.
I consider that to be a very important part of my job.
Wow. Personally, why did you decide to enter the law enforcement field or this area? Why did you decide to become a judge?
I had done just about everything else in the criminal justice business. As a young man getting out of the service after the Vietnam War, I joined the Houston Police Department and became a Houston cop. After about 10 years, I left that for a private security position with a major corporation and was charged with crime prevention type work, protecting and ensuring the safety of employees. And it just sort of evolved, and I had moved to Houston County, and the previous gentleman who sat here was a gentleman named Williamson. And he was retiring, and I was approached by a few people to run for the job, and I was kind of unemployed at the time, so I decided to run for the job, and was fortunate enough to win.
Oh, wow.
And was sent immediately. We were sent to a judge's school.
So there's a school for y'all to learn what you do in the courtroom.
Absolutely. As a justice of the peace in the state of Texas, you do not have to be a lawyer. Being a lawyer is not one of the requirements to be a JP. Actually, some people feel that being new to the system is a good idea because you, as a judge, you're not imposed to be preferential to, say, law enforcement.
You don't come in with any preconceived notions.
That's correct. You learn the law, and you learn the requirements of applying the laws that you have jurisdiction over, and try to apply that fairly. But as you brought up earlier, a lot of people don't realize that the biggest part of the judge, especially at this level, is to make sure the people understand that they're going to be treated fairly against the government. Because if you as a citizen don't have confidence in the system, then we have all the civil issues and disturbances and problems that we have.
I know you can't talk about specific cases, but coming from outside, this will be the last question, and then if you have any questions for me, I'll be more than happy to answer. But what was the most challenging thing for you coming in and sitting where you're sitting, and the responsibility you have to protect the people accused of a crime as well as the people that have had crime committed against them? What's been your biggest challenge, do you think?
Well, I have to think about that one for a moment. There are several. I was fairly confident with the Texas laws. That was a huge challenge. Of course, nobody knows every law, and in this job, if you have a case coming up, you try to study in advance and prepare for it to make sure you know what you're talking about.
Oh, hold right there. Guys, did you hear what he said? He said when you have something coming up, you study and prepare for it.
Sorry about that, guys. Sorry, guys. Yeah, it's a good idea to be prepared. But one of the biggest challenges is just getting people to understand, especially in a small community. There's a phrase that's called ex parte. And in small communities, people want to approach the judge maybe before they go to trial to get the judge aware of their side. And ex parte conversations would be a conversation, for example, if you're accused of something and you want to run to the judge before you go to trial, that would be an ex parte conversation. The judge can't do that. I can't have, for example, if you've gotten a traffic ticket, I can't hear your side of the story before you decide how you're going to plead. And by the same token, though, I can't have the cops come in here ahead of time and say, this guy Clark's a real jerk, man. He was rude to me out there on the streets, Judge, and he wanted to fight. And he was drunk and stoned. So, no, I can't have the troopers telling me that. So
they wouldn't.
So we wait for the courtroom for these facts to be brought out. But that's, in a small town, I've had people say, well, why did I vote for you if you won't talk to me about this? And it's like, it's against the law. We can't discuss your case ahead of time. Overcoming that in a small community was kind of tough. And I guess the really, really difficult part for me, part of the job is the inquest, which are death calls that we have to make. In a small community like this, the judge is basically the medical examiner, or coroner if you prefer, and we get called out to the scenes of fatal accidents and deaths at home. And
oh wow,
those are kind of tough.
I can definitely believe that.
I think that's about the best way I could answer that question.
No, that was absolutely fantastic. Hey guys, and that's going to kind of segue to what I need y'all to do. You're going to be looking at a series of cases, and they're down here. Miss Lisa already showed them to you. And what I want you to do with each of those cases is I want you to describe the case for me. So you're going to pick one of these cases, and I'm going to let Judge Black pick one in just a second. And I want you to tell me what the case was being judged on. Why did they go to court? And then I want you to tell me the outcome of the case and how it impacts you as a student, right? So, Judge, I've got 6 cases down here. Is there any one in particular that you would like for me to wax poetically about?
Well, Mr. Clark, I think I would prefer today that you would answer or explain to me about Edgewood ISD versus Kirby.
Oh, wow. Okay. Edgewood ISD versus Kirby. It has a nickname. It's one of the very few court cases that I study in class that actually have a nickname, and it's called the Robin Hood case. Judge, do you know who Robin Hood was?
I have heard of a few stories about Robin Hood, yes.
Robin Hood was this guy that robbed from the rich to give to the poor. And you see, Edgewood v. Kirby, Edgewood ISD was a very poor school district. And they sued the state of Texas because they didn't think that funding for the students was being equally distributed among all school districts. And Crockett ISD, by the way, was a party in the lawsuit. They sued the school district to make funding as equal as they could across the board in the state of Texas, so that a school district like Highland Park, which is a very wealthy school district in Dallas, and Crockett, which is a very economically disadvantaged school district, would have equal funding, or as equal as they could make it through the state. Now, what that means for my kids is this. It means that these fantastic young men and women that sit in my class every day have those same opportunities that the kids in Highland Park do to possibly go to college, to enter the military, or maybe even one day grow up and wear a nice, and it looks like really hot robe, to be a judge, or even, if you're really lucky and really smart, to be, I don't know, something important like a school teacher. All right.
Chamber of Commerce Executive Director.
Nobody wants to be that. All right, guys. These are the 6 cases. I want you to write about each one of them. Each one is going to tell me, you're going to tell me for each court case what was being judged, what was being adjudicated, and then you're going to tell me the outcome for you as a student. Miss you guys. Hopefully I'll see you May 4th. And remember, I love each and every one of you. Miss Lisa does. Bye, guys.